Hi guys, it's Matt here from MCS-books. Today I am going to talk about audience for non-fiction. Okay, so this comes about more so from a book that I'm currently reading. A book that kind of almost defies genre and boundaries, like you wouldn't really know where to place it on a bookshelf. I mean, you would, obviously. I picked it up from a certain section. I picked it up from nature writing. And I went into it thinking it was going to be non-fiction. And I'm about halfway through it now, and I have some opinions. So, let me tell you what book it is that I'm reading. I'm currently reading Common Ground by Rob Cowen. This was shortlisted for the Wainwright Golden Beer Prize, I don't know. But it's got some quite good blurbs. It's got from Joanne Harris and Michael Palin, so I thought this book was going to be good. Like I said, I'm about halfway, I'm just beyond halfway through it. Sorry, I dog eat my books. And I'm not enjoying it. And I want to tell you why I'm not enjoying it. It's because I don't feel like the author here knows who he is writing for. So, when you're writing anything, you need to know who your audience is, and you need to choose your audience, and you just need to sell it to them. I've read a lot of non-fiction recently, mostly it's course literature for my masters. So it's for academia, it's not for the greater public to consume, it's just for students or professors or other academics to read and then to use to enhance their own essays and stuff. So a lot of this reading has been about working interdisciplinary, and it talks a lot about knowing who you're writing for, especially in ethnology. Something that comes out from this study is we're talking about a group of people, or we're talking about a society, or we're talking about the way people do things, basically. But we're writing to other academics. Kind of we're placing ourselves above them in an ivory tower that these people that we're talking about can't access. So what do we do with that? How can we then change our writing style? And a lot of authors who do write these academic papers will then also actually write for perhaps a newspaper or a magazine or something else where they have to completely change their style to make it accessible to so many more people. But the key is that they actually write something different. They know their audience, so they change the way they write it. Rob Cowen here, I'm not sure he knows who his audience is for this book. I don't know what sort of person would want to read this book, apart from the myriad of people who apparently blurbed it. So now, Rob Cowen is an award-winning journalist and writer who has authored columns on nature and travel for The Independent, Independent on Sunday and The Telegraph. Described by The Guardian as one of the UK's most exciting nature writers, he received the Roger Deakin Award from the Society of Authors for his first book, Skimming Stones and Other Ways of Being in the Wild. Common Ground was shortlisted for the Portico Prize for non-fiction in 2015. He lives in Harrogate, in North Yorkshire. So that's who the author is. He's mainly a nature writer for newspapers. So that means that he's writing articles, very short articles about nature. And he has written the book before, but this is the first I've heard of him. And this is the first book by him that I'm reading. But it's so strange. He is said to be a book for non-fiction. But there are so many strange factors of this. One example is his style of writing. He's trying to be poetic, perhaps, but in doing so, he kind of loses the motive of his writing. I don't know why he's writing this at the end of the day. He flips constantly between giving you a historical background of the area that he's writing about, or then he'll go into fictional writing. He's talking about characters that are made up, that aren't real. Sometimes he's talking from the point of view of an animal. And it's just really jarring to go from one to the other so quickly. And it's part memoir at the same time. It's part about his move from London to Harrogate, or just outside. And he's kind of like documenting this, and the birth of his son, or child, I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. So yeah, so it keeps on changing, and it's very, very strange. He doesn't know who he's writing for. It makes it very unenjoyable because you're just constantly in this flux of, what am I reading? What's the point in this? Why are you telling me this? I haven't really learned anything so far from this book. It's just all about him and his notebook and his ideas of trying to make it accessible through literary techniques, and it's not working well. I'm so fed up of it. Like, I'm going to try and finish it, but I'm going to try. That's the point. I don't want to finish it. I don't know if I will or not. He just needs to get his together and figure out who he's writing for. When it comes to non-fiction, you're writing about a topic, so there must be an audience in mind, people who are also interested in that topic. But they're already interested. You don't really need to sell it any further. You don't really need to push it away from that group of people. Otherwise, you're alienating them, and you're alienating the new people that you're trying to write for. You need to make it cohesive. You need to keep going for that one topic, for the people who are interested in that topic. You need to give a nice mixture of facts, but in a readable style. Not like this style where it's so flowery that you're kind of like missing any sort of information at all. You can't believe anything that he's saying because it's so dressed up in fancy words and fancy imagery. But I understand that you might want to make it more readable for people who just have like a bit of an interest and would like to learn more. You want to make it more accessible to a greater audience. You just need to be very careful. There was one non-fiction book that I really enjoyed. It was called The Quest of the Lotus. I'm going to put a picture somewhere here. I don't know. I can't remember the author's name either. So I will probably write that somewhere here. Quest of the Lotus is about lotus flowers in Japan. And I mean, I bought it from a section that was in the travel writing section because it's like a tour of Japan almost. And I picked it up because of that, because I was interested in it. And then little did I know that I was actually suddenly interested in botany and lotus flowers. But it did such a wonderful way of telling the story of his journey through Japan, learning about the lotus flower in mythology, in medicine, in art and design, and in current and in contemporary culture. It was so interesting. It was so well written. It kept me wanting to go more. There was like an actual narrative to it, and yet it was non-fiction throughout. You knew it was non-fiction. There was no dressing up of what was happening. There was sometimes little artistic asides, which were great because it just made it a little bit more pleasurable, but it was linear and it told a story and it did it well. And it forever remained non-fiction in my head. I could see it. It was a memoir and a non-fiction on botany, and specifically the lotus flower. This book, however, there's a brief chronology of events of his like move away from London and then the pregnancy of his wife, but other than that, it's split into parts, and each part is to do with an animal. But it's also set around one part of the land. So then the animal is connected to his time spent in this land, and then he somehow breaks away from his animal to create new thoughts, and then you have part of the parts that are talking from the perspective of the animal or from a fictional character that he's just created to talk about something. Which brings me on to my next point about non-fiction and writing for an audience, is that usually when you're writing non-fiction, you have an argument that you want to put forward and you want to try to persuade people. Not always. Sometimes, like historically, you might just have facts and that's that, but still, there is no way to not be unbiased when you're writing non-fiction. You are trying to tell people something and trying to teach them something from your perspective. But I feel like Rob Cowen here has his perspective, but he wants to kind of trick you into seeing that. So he's putting it into the perspective of other characters, these fictional characters, these animals. He's telling his ideas from their point of view, but then it kind of defeats his whole purpose because he's hiding from his point of view, which at the end of the day is basically being how crap people are. Like, we don't look after nature anymore, we've forgotten about nature, we've lost ourselves. Which is fine, but, tell me in your own words. Tell me your own thoughts. Don't try to pretend it's someone else's or create characters that tell me this story that you are trying to tell. This is a non-fiction book. It's nature writing. It's memoir. It's, who even knows, kind of travel writing as he explores the lands between Harrogate and the wild. So tell me your stories, stop dressing it up. So I guess that's all I got to say. I'm not enjoying this book. And I feel like that's twice I posted a negative video now, but I need a really good book. So if you guys have any suggestions on what I should read next, please let me know in the comments down below. Subscribe to my channel and there'll be a video up soon. Hopefully, we'll see. And yes, bye bye.